back at the job where we did the concrete. Here's what we did. It's drying out real nice. It's already moved some more stuff in here. Now we're gonna knock this wall out. We're gonna take this section of wall out to here. Probably gonna remove this cap temporarily. Make sure this is solid grouted because they're gonna hang the new gate off of that. These gates are gonna get repurposed on the other side of the house. This side over here, we're gonna do the same thing. This is coming out, this column. We're gonna put a new column right here. The new column's gonna be here, so the gate's gonna be a lot wider. That way you can get the RV in here real easy. Here's a front view of it, the modification. Well, let's get down to business. Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. And here we have the Milwaukee cordless cutoff saw, 14-inch. She's a real beauty. Cutting through this with ease. It's a 6-inch block wall, so we'll cut it from both sides and get a complete cut. We want to make sure that we cut all the way through and through the rebar if there is any horizontal. And I noticed some sparks off the blade, so that indicated to me that there was some rebar in there that we went through. And that's good news, because when we start hitting this with the tractor, the breaker attachment on the CTX 100 Vermeer, when I start hitting this wall with it, I don't want the wall that we're trying to save to shake loose or, you know, jeopardize the integrity of the structure we're saving. All right, we've got the water attachment hooked up to this saw. The nice thing about it is the water only comes on when you're pulling the trigger, so you're not making a huge mess, and you can kind of control your water flow that way. Keeping the dust down really well here with that water, so it's a real clean operation. Here comes the CTX Vermeer. I'm going to use the breaker attachment for this job. You could have done it with a 16 or 20 pound sledgehammer, or even just a 35-pound roto hammer or jackhammer. It would have been a lot more work than doing it the way I'm doing it, but it could have been done other ways. This just happens to be the easiest. So the way I'm breaking this is I'm doing one block at a time. I could have potentially just drove into this and just knocked that whole section right over, but there is a potential of collateral damage by doing that. So I'm working one block down, one block at a time, working down that bar where I assume that vertical is going to be in that wall. I'm just going to put my point right on that and crush or crumble the concrete off of that bar as we go down here. Also, I'm taking a good look while I'm hitting this at the existing wall to make sure it's not moving at all. Because if it is, then I have to think of a different technique. And it wasn't. I didn't see any movement in that existing wall that we're saving. Now here's the DeWalt cut off. That's a 9-inch blade. It's a diamond tip blade, but it's designed to cut steel. So you're supposed to get a lot more use out of that type of blade rather than the carborundum blade. It's about 10 times more use out of this type of blade I have in there. We're picking up about 3.5 feet to this opening by doing this. Even after we rebuild the column, we're going to be about 3.5 feet wider than it was initially. So we're going about from 11 feet to about 15, right around there, 14.6, which makes it a lot easier driving an RV in here. So at the bottom, I want to knock the block down about 2 inches below the existing concrete. All right, I just arrived back on the job site. Very next day, early in the morning, about 5:30 a.m. And we're going to try to get these columns up. The new columns that are going to hang the wider gate. And this is how it's going to set. It's like that. So I've got a drill, and I've got the 3/4 inch bit. I've got the number 5 rebar back there on the truck. So I want to put 2 number 5s in here. 2 holes, 2 5s all the way up. And then we'll solid grout that, and that will hold the new 7'3" gate 7.3 here and a 7'3" here will get this opening. Or it's actually, she's 14.6 overall, approximately. We'll double check it once these columns go up, but here's where the old ones were. We're going to chip all this down a little bit below grade. Then we're going to use Wonder Fix. It's a little cement product for patching made by Rapid Set. But you know, it came out really nice yesterday. I was real happy how this broke out. It didn't even shake the existing wall at all when I was banging this thing. The reason it didn't shake it is we got this grout here solid, plus our cuts went all the way through the rebar and all the way through the block. Same thing over here. The reason this didn't get shook around, and I drilled into this core here. I drilled in here to check, and it's solid grouted here and here, so that thing didn't move. Anyway, let's get down to business. Now, the way we're going to be setting these blocks, these are A blocks, which means it's just going to wrap around on one side. There is an H block where you'd have blocks adjoining on both sides, but in this case, we're going to only be adjoining on one side of the A block. See those two blocks that I left there? That's pretty much our base. We know those are level with the existing wall, and that's the height that we want to work from to get to the top and still be at the same level. So even though those blocks are 6-inch wide and the A blocks are about a good 10 inches wide, we're going to be cantilevered over that existing block a little bit, but we'll go ahead and dry pack that with some mortar at the end of this job after we're all grouted out. What we're doing, we drilled, I did two holes 3/4 inch for 5/8 rebar vertically in the ends of these column block. We epoxied them in. I used the roto hammer 3/4 bit, and I used the blower and a brush to clean those holes out, get them ready to accept that epoxy. So instead of just running like a 2-foot dowel and then dropping a top bar before we grout, I just ran them continuous from, top to bottom, 1 bar, which is always stronger than having a splice in there. It's a little more difficult to set your block because we had to lift them over the top of the rebar and come all the way down. We could have cut the ends of these A blocks out, and then it'd be kind of like an open-ended block, and then we could have just slipped them that way too. But you risk the chance of it cracking when you're handling it. The type of concrete we used for this first block to get it set was the Rapid Setting Quickcrete. It's in a red bag. It sets up really quick. So we used that first block with that particular material. That way we could go ahead and go up without any delay or waiting for the concrete to dry. This is tan mortar that we're using here. On that first block, I don't know if you noticed it or if I showed it even, but we pulled the string line all the way across from each end of the column to get those 2 column blocks in line with one another. So once that first block's in line with one another, then we know that all the rest above that are going to be the same. When we're leveling these blocks, as we said, the important thing to do is to plumb the ends, because that's where the new gate's going to hang from. So that's probably your most crucial phase of this. Now this is something prior to the action. Now that the end of the block is set, now we're just cleaning out the end of it, the end of these columns, to get it ready to accept the patchwork to make this driveway nice and flat again and flush, ready to drive an RV over. We're just going 2 inches down, brushing all the loose material out of the hole, using a blower, and I just use a little water to moisten the concrete a little bit before we put this mix in. You notice how dry this material is? And it's going off quick because it's the quick setting product from Quickcrete. So it's setting up quick, and I did it dry so I could pack underneath those block ends where it was cantilevered out. So this is a concrete mix. It's like a 4,500 psi with some rock in there. Now that I've packed it in there and the stuff is set, and this all happens within about 5-10 minutes, I'm just kind of scraping out the excess concrete from underneath the block, about a 1/2 inch recess, and then I'm going to put the tan mortar over the top of that, because mortar that deep by itself could crack up on you. That's why we comboed it up with the concrete mix. Also, we used the same mix on that patchwork. It went in quick and fast, and that's the way this type of concrete works. You don't want to mix too much because you won't be able to keep up with it, in other words. Here's some of your final cleanups. I've already put the mortar over the top of that fast setting concrete. And then I'm just sponging it to kind of make a nice finish on it. But there's your patchwork. Day 3, 5 a.m. Here's what our patchwork looks like today. Really nice. The block. Take a look inside here. See if we got enough steel. I think that should be enough. Go over here. Take a look in this one. Got a lot of steel in here. I gotta move this one over a little. There. So we chose to leave that bottom block and build off of it. We've got 2 number 5s that are drilled in, set with epoxy, about 5 inches into the existing footing. And then we also added 2 more number 4s verticals. So this thing's going to be really stout. It's going to get all new wrought iron gates to match. This is an HOA, so they're going to be built, just in accordance with the HOA recommendations. All of the cap block for this I salvaged from the demo. So the 2-inch flat cap was stuff that I salvaged. These A's, I went out and bought them, and I was fortunate they matched really well, a lot better than I thought they would. Like, you can't really tell the difference between the colors. It's that close. Normally, after you have something setting for 20-25 years like this has, you'd have a big color variation just due to fading. But I think what happened here is I got a different block, not the original, so it kind of matched better than if I had gotten the original block. So on the caps, I'm going to go ahead and dry fit them to start with. Once I get all of them dry fit on both sides, then I'll start slapping the mortar down. Not a whole lot of cuts to make, so I'm just going to dry cut these. The joints on this wall, we used a striker to make them nice and smooth, but you could rake them, or you could just leave them flush. There's a lot of different ways. You could wire brush them. A lot of different finishes on the grout lines, but the existing had a smooth joint, so that's what we went with throughout this. Now I'm using a rubber mallet to kind of knock them down and get them flush. And there's a little challenging part of it, trying to get the mortar in between this tight gap here. Probably should have put a little mortar on the end of those blocks before I set them. Would have been a little easier getting it in there. So the next phase is I'm going to have Marcelo, the wrought iron guy, come over here, take some field measurements of this. Then he can start fabricating the new gates. And that's going to take a couple weeks for him to get them completed and hung. So I will come back to this to show the final product at some point in time. All right, so now we're just doing some cleanup. We've got the pressure washer here. We're knocking some of those tractor tire marks off of the concrete. Also, I've got the tractor on the other side of this wall. I'm moving all that gravel that we dug out from a previous video when we widened this driveway. Wrapping it up. This is your finished product. Now we just got to wait for that gate to be fabricated and hung, and we'll get the final look. Here's that patch we did. Take a look at this one. All right, that about wraps this one up. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification button. That way you'll be notified as soon as I upload another video. Have a good one.